you just mentioned, saying right-wing extremism is the number one threat. Then he defined that as white supremacism and then said questioning open borders, questioning elections,
I wasn't going to
questioning
stream right
lockdowns,
now
questioning
because
forced
I actually
shots.
wanted
That's
to watch.
in the report. I've shown it hundreds of
I
times
wanted
on
to
air.
watch him.
Literally declaring the people enemy.
But since he's
then he gives
watching
a
another
speech with this red
YouTuber
background
or
with
another streamer,
Marines. I thought I was watching Adolf Hitler.
him.
And then yesterday he gives a speech saying they're taking over, they're in danger, we're at war, all off a riot at the Capitol. At best, it's a riot, and obviously provocateur. So this is a branding of 80 million voters plus as a political enemy. This is extremely totalitarian, extremely dangerous, and I was there. I know you're in a crowd of hundreds of thousands. Tear gas is coming down. You can't even see what's happening at the Capitol. You're saying, don't go in there. We've got a stage. I go there. There's a stage. No one there.
Like I said,
you were set up, and I was set up. But thank God that I waited 30, 40 minutes. I didn't know what to do. I was like, this is weird. How do I lead a crowd that's already left? I was there. And so all I'm saying is this is not the basis to indict populist Americans and say they're terrorists. And if the U.S. government spent the equivalent of $10 trillion, they spent $1 trillion in Afghanistan of real current numbers, but the estimates now are $10 trillion in current dollars in Vietnam, and the Vietnamese wouldn't give up. So Swallowsville says we'll use F-16s, we'll just kill Americans, we'll take your guns. F-16s don't take guns, folks. I don't want a civil war. I don't want violence. But the entire deep state couldn't defeat the Vietnamese, and now they want a war with the American people while they have one with Russia and while they have one with China. This is madness. It needs to stop. I don't want a war with Democrats. I don't want civil war. I don't have some dream of this, but this is the election strategy of Joe Biden.
We're at
is
the point
civil
where
war.
we need something.
Did you want to say something?
Just
I think this is really the nub of everything. Like, I really do think
not going to give it up easily.
that three of them actually believe what they're saying about like actually realizing this. And the reason they believe it is because they don't know the history of the war on terror. They don't know the history of the Cold War. They don't know what the CIA and the FBI and the U.S. security state have been constructed to do and the role that they played in our domestic politics. Every single time that there's some new crisis, the CIA, the FBI, the permanent power faction in Washington, and it's not like some crazy conspiracy theory. Dwight Eisenhower warned of it on his way out of the presidency in 1961 when he called it the military-industrial complex because he had seen how it was growing beyond all democratic accountability. Every time what they need to do is convince somebody to be scared of something, to be scared of communism, to be scared of terrorism, to be scared of domestic terrorism. And they convince people that some minor event, relatively speaking, in the history of the threats to our country, like the 9/11 attack, which is a terrible thing, but they exaggerated wildly the threat of foreign terrorism to basically institute the Patriot Act and warrantless eavesdropping and all of the things that turned our country more authoritarian. They were announcing that before 9/11. They used 9/11 to do it. They were announcing before January 6th that they wanted to turn right-wing.
How long has this been going, chat? Because so if you're just tuning in, I had forgot. So this is the big Destiny and Alex Jones debate. He's got the Crantonsons or whatever their name is, those left-wing guys. And I saw a few people saying, Greenwald's got a soy voice. His voice sounds as manly as I've ever heard compared to the Crantonson brothers. Those guys sound exactly like you would expect them to sound.
They've made it now so that they can charge those people with felonies and put them in prison for years. That was the Q Shaman, 4 years in prison for a nonviolent protest. That's the precedent that you're endorsing with this narrative.
That is an inside job.
Jacob Chansley got 4 years, but he served, I think, a year and a half. But I do want to go back. So
a bunch of police officers
pretending
to be
Stuart Rose. They're nonviolent crimes.
Sounds exactly like you would expect.
Stuart Rose and Enrique Tarrio. They were sentenced to some of the harshest sentences out of all the January 6ers. Who was the judge? It was a Trump-appointed judge, Timothy Kelly. Now, if you look at the worst convictions, the ones that received the largest sentences, 80% of them were actually under the sentencing guidelines.
Krista, your voice sounds more manly than this guy. Okay, that says a lot because you have a very feminine voice.
Actually,
you sound more manly than him.
All right. When I first saw Krista, who he's talking about, I thought it was a trainee.
A Trump-appointed judge.
I thought it was like
you're all saying that the courts are rigged against conservatives or Trump supporters. But
really
these are
mainly
Trump
facial
judges.
structure.
Many of these were Trump judges that actually not charge these people, but sentence these people.
I think that if we want to talk about knowing history and understanding history and contextualizing history, I think if we want to run with that
I'll be right
argument,
back. I have to
then
check
we
on
need to do
something.
real journalist work while we do it. It's not enough to say the FBI or the CIA has done this 10, 20 years ago and then blindly assert it every single time it happens to fit whatever political narrative you want to tell. If you want to tell a story, the person telling the story needs to find evidence to support it. Sure, if you want to say the FBI or the CIA or any other domestic agency has been involved in spying on Americans or doing bad things, that's fine. We all know that it's happened. That doesn't mean that you don't have to find evidence in the future of it happening. And so far, there is no evidence of it happening on January 6th. As many times you want to throw around the follow politics before 2016 or whatever, well, we're in 2024 right now. Find some information from today or find some information from January 6th to today. It's not enough to just keep appealing to the past and pretend like that's going to do your homework for you and that somehow you can make all of these accusations without having any real evidence. As far as this claim of like there are novel uses of charges or people don't do charges like this, as was said over here, like most of the sentences have been within sentencing guidelines. A lot of these have been done with a Trump-appointed judge. The idea that these charges are novel, that people don't face prosecution like this, there's some element
Sorry, I
of
just
truth to
made
that,
some
but
ribs
this is
and my
also a
brother
novel
came over
situation.
to
We have never had a
grab some.
president in the United States try to resist the peaceful
yes, I know.
transfer of power like this. This has
Why
just
are you
never
eating
happened
ribs
before.
and
And you can keep screaming about Hillary Clinton, you can keep screaming about BLM all you want and
Because
talk
when I
about the
cook,
blown up
I
fire stations and the
usually
congressional
cut it
halls.
up all
The
evening,
reality is
and I
that
give
none
to,
of
like,
those
every
situations
single
were
one of my
like this
family
one.
members.
You want to keep appealing to those and saying those people should have been charged with crimes. We agree they should have been charged with crimes. But to even do the whataboutism, you have to already concede that you are wrong on all of the merits about the current people you're talking about. Every single time we talk about Donald Trump, you go, well, what about when Hillary Clinton or Biden did it? Oh, okay, then you admit that Trump did? Because if you want to admit that Trump is guilty of every single thing that we've been accusing him of, which is what you're doing when you go, what about the other guy? Because it seems like you're just trying to
Destiny.
appeal to hypocrisy at that point rather than the fact of the matter, then do that.
The
Say,
guy
yeah, Trump did try to cite an insurrection. Yeah,
who
Trump
was
did
a
fail.
cook,
Yeah,
and
it
then
was
his
a riot. I don't know
wife
why you
left
keep
him.
saying
Well, let me ask you
mostly
this.
peaceful. No, don't ask me this. Let me finish my one point one time without being interrupted by you. You came
constantly
running
interrupt.
back because you heard me talking. You had to interrupt me. I know you came running back and you were so excited for it. Okay? I don't understand this rhetoric of mostly peaceful riot. Yeah,
Did
it
you
was
actually get a
mostly
Big
peaceful.
Mac?
A lot of riots that have riot aspects to them, a lot of peaceful people there. And a 10,000 man riot,
99%
it's not always 10,000 people rioting. It might just be 100 people rioting or 1,000 people rioting. The
But
reality
Biden said they were all
was
bad.
there was one event on January 6th at the Capitol building. That event was a riot.
Okay, so let me just add some context here. Well, they had 3 trials in Michigan, and one of them it was a mistrial, and they let most of them off another, and they finally got a few convicted. It came out in court that the feds went and found a bunch of basically homeless potheads, and just like Glenn was saying, the New York Times article, they were more accurate, 97% of Islamic plots were hatched by the FBI,
Yeah.
including the first World Trade Center bombing, and they admit all that. And I've interviewed the people involved, Ahmad Salam, all of them that knew they were into the bombing. He came and said, why have I cooked a real bomb? And they let it go forward. With Whitmer, the same team involved in January 6th from the FBI went and set these people up, and that came out in the mainstream news. So we know this isn't, you guys were saying, we don't want to go back to 10 years ago. You know, I'm sat there for 6-7 minutes, out there smoking a cigarette while you're just going on and acting like you're being censored. You're like, there's no example recently of them doing something corrupt or bad.
Never said that.
It's a
I
great
said
example.
find
Literally
evidence.
right now.
I said
Detail
find
to that.
evidence.
Years ago,
Yeah.
he said you can use
No,
stuff.
Destiny,
I'll
this
say
is a
that
great
evidence.
point. This is a great point that Alex is making. You don't need to go back to the original war on terror. You don't need to go back to the ample antecedents that exist going way back into our nation's history. Just go back to the Michigan case. And the parallels to January 6th are striking. Look, almost half of the so-called plotters turned out to be either informants or federal agents. One of those federal agents had to recuse himself from the trial because he beat his wife on the way home from
At
a
a swinger
swingers
club.
party.
Swinger party,
The second one had to recuse himself because he was moonlighting in his. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Like personally, like I find settings like this to be ultra cringy. I mean, obviously, I love Alex Jones. I find the whole like debate. Like the guy, like it just, nothing really gets accomplished. What gets accomplished is talking directly to your audience and making your points and getting new people to kind of listen. And to me, that's far more beneficial than these cringy debate settings where it's just, nothing really gets accomplished. You know what I mean? But if the people want me to watch, we're going to watch and I'll react.
he had a very complicated relationship. Antifa basically excluded him because of his relationship with the government, and they thought he was a Fed. Absolutely, the Feds infiltrate BLM.
Absolutely,
they
got
do that.
excluded because of his relationship with the government. He got excluded because that guy was insane. Because he was screaming at people to do all sorts of violent stuff constantly. Nobody wanted to be around him.
On video in the Capitol saying, "I told you we were going to stage it.
Sorry
I
about
told
that.
you it was going to
Everybody's
happen."
coming by.
Sullivan,
Since
there's no
I made
evidence of
ribs
Sullivan
chicken.
communicating
Okay, why
with
are
anyone.
you talk more than all of us? You guys,
So this
guys haven't
one's
talked
called
to me.
Why
asparagus.
is it that when
So now
BLM
everybody's coming. Since everybody's getting home from work.
rioters, I guess you could say, aren't arrested as much as you want?
So I'm sorry for the
You
interruptions.
know, you say the January 6ers were arrested at a much higher rate than the
And
rioters.
that's true.
Okay, how come you don't say
And
that?
much more property
okay,
damage as a result of
So here's the
BLM.
thing, though. Why don't
Order of
why
magnitude.
don't you accuse those who aren't prosecuted for those riots of being federal agents?
Well, in some cases they probably are, but at that scale, it's
Maybe
hard
they just
to.
have more there. How do you know?
No.
Like, if you want to go conspiracy theory, I mean, let's touch all the bases.
but I mean, Michigan is on record.
Can I
Yeah,
interject
Glenn.
first? The idea, again, that for the FBI to be infiltrating these groups is a conspiracy theory, again, it requires an understanding of the FBI that's childlike. And what Destiny was saying before is, oh, we're just using what they've done in the past and therefore concluding they must be doing that in the future. He just ignored all the evidence we've been presenting for the last 2 hours, including the fact that the FBI, by their own admission, had informants in all three of the leading groups that organized January 6th and were talking to informants on the ground at the Capitol
Exactly.
on that
Who
day.
is
according to
who is
New
the
York
head of the
Times.
FBI?
That is
Who's
factual.
the head of the
Let me-
FBI?
It's a Jew.
As far as January 6th defendants are concerned,
Surprise.
it is true that they're getting sentences similar to what people get when they're charged with felonies. The point is that it is insane that nonviolent protesters are being charged with felonies in the United States. That is what never happens. And pointing to Black Lives Matter is not to say, oh yeah, that's whataboutism, so we're admitting that this was an insurrection, and that is too. The point is that what the government is doing, if you look at the disparate treatment between the two, is picking and choosing which movement they like ideologically and politically and which they don't, and punishing much more severely the one that they don't, which is what January 6th is about.
Going
So wait,
into-
when you're
going-
making an
going into
accusation,
the
wait,
Cap-
real quick, when
going
you're
into
making-
the Capitol building, going into the Capitol building with weapons, saying hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence. No, that's not a violent crime. But are you saying that that doesn't warrant a felony conviction? That's absurd.
No,
People
let me-
are
let me-
actually calling
let me
for
say something.
people are
Glenn,
calling for the
you
hanging
can
of the
come
vice
back and so
president of
Glenn, I'm
America.
gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest.
The majority, no, Alex, hold on one second. The majority of people who were charged with felonies in January 6th are non-violent offenders.
And what did they do, Glenn? What did they do?
An interpretation of the law. They created an interpretation of the law that was enacted after Enron that was designed to
So when he's saying,
criminalize
you know,
accountants from
hang Mike
obstructing
Pence and all
fraud
that.
at
What
the
did they
corporate
do?
level.
I didn't hear that.
Every
The
single
meaning of
in the
it
videos.
would mean that if it's a non-violent
But if it is
any
said,
non-violent
No, a
protest now at the
traitor
Capitol,
But you're
is charged
to
with a
America.
felony.
You're
Do you
glossing
understand
you're
that?
glossing
They
over
lose
the facts.
any and
You're
all rights.
glossing over the facts,
They
Glenn.
are therefore enemy of the state, enemy of the nation, because they're traitors.
Get him, Alex!
6-month sentences for going in the damn thing, being waved in by police. That's on record.
But here's the facts. The people who got the felonies were either violent, they were taking part in a conspiracy, or they went into the House chamber. Those are the people who got it. The people who walked into the Capitol
That's
building.
not true.
It is true.
No, it's
Look,
not.
It absolutely
I
is
just
true.
gave you a
Google it.
specific example
So
earlier.
conspiracy-
One or two? These are
Give me the
conspiracy.
example. What did he do?
Thomas Caldwell.
What did he do?
He was not violent, and he did not go into the Capitol.
He didn't go.
Oh,
what did
Schroeder
he do?
spent
What
two
was he
months
charged
in
with?
federal-
What was the
Thank
conviction?
you.
What was the conviction?
Two
What
months
was
in
Caldwell's
federal
conviction?
prison
Let's talk about-
and did not go in the Capitol.
talk about
And
Thomas
also, wait,
Caldwell for a minute.
Well, and then
while
also,
you're
real
about
quick, to
I'm a
Glenn's,
reporter.
to Glenn's point, keep in mind that when you're saying that BLM wasn't treated the same because of the government and how they were, you're not just alleging the federal government at that point. You're alleging every single state government and city municipality that's in charge of arresting people
we're
are
not saying
all
that.
on the same
The feds
page
ran the
in terms
prosecution.
of unfair.
Almost all of us in DC.
Wait, the feds are in charge of prosecuting everybody in every state?
Thomas Caldwell was.
All right, 60%, 62% have said keep watching. So that's I'm gonna keep it up for a few more minutes. Brock just dropped 50 gifted memberships. Let's go.
State mayor and every single blue state governor weighed in on the side of the rioters because they were petrified of being demonized as being racist if they didn't support everything the Black Lives Matter movement did. So yes, the Black Lives Matter movement had corporations sponsoring them. They had Kamala Harris urging and raising money for people to get out of prison who were imprisoned and prosecuted for having engaged in violence as part of the Black Lives Matter movement. The entire establishment was on the side of the Black Lives Matter movement. The entire establishment hated the January 6th defendants. That's the reality of our government that you don't understand.
The reality of our government that you don't understand. No, the reality of our government that you don't understand is that police orders don't come down from the federal government or even from the governors. Policing is done at the municipal level. The idea that governors are dictating... the BLM riots are not all federally prosecuted. These are state crimes that are happening within states. That are happening within states. The idea that the governors themselves, the governors are dictating, the governors themselves are dictating policing policies to all of these different departments.
Don't let
evidence of any of that? One message, one email, one memorandum, one thing saying don't arrest protesters.
Can't even keep a
white. Not a single shred of
wow.
evidence.
How much do you love the police
cheat.
state? Why do you suddenly love it?
Stories isn't that weird?
This is such a shit show.
The police state, they got arrested by George W. Bush against
Why are we
Iraq
forgetting
war.
something? We're forgetting one thing, and that is that you can commit a crime, you can commit a felony, and it doesn't have to be violent. There's plenty of felonies on the books that aren't violent, including breaking into a federal building, breaking through police lines and going into that federal building and going into the Senate chamber as Congress people are trying to certify an election. How is that going over your head, Glenn?
Let me ask you this. I'm asking you this and everybody. Please answer my question. Is this as bad as Pearl Harbor, or is this as bad as 9/11? And all I'm telling you is, is this Biden announcement that currently the number one threat is the Trump supporters, and Trump must be taken off the ballot. You can punt to the Supreme Court, but they're literally trying to preclude Americans from voting for who they want. That's the election theft in our face.
Why do we have to keep going back to that?
Yeah, that's the third time that question was
answer
unanswered.
Yeah,
answer it.
I always hate that. I was like, why do you repeat yourself? Because you're not answering the damn question.
Who is he? What did he do exactly? And what was he charged with?
Seditious conspiracy.
We don't need to get into that so extensively. I was just saying, here is somebody who is not violent, who did not go into the Capitol, who is charged with obstruction of an official proceeding.
Seditious conspiracy.
Well, there was later a superseding indictment.
That's a felony he was charged with.
Biden's entire campaign is January 6th. Not inflation, not war with Russia, not open borders. I mean, give me a break, man. We had 1 million plus people there. A few hundred got in fights with the cops, and you act like it's the biggest thing since
Thank you.
When a president tries to overturn a legitimate election. That's a really big deal. That's a really big. You had all your investigations and you lost every single one. When you lose in court, you go to the next day.
You keep
Remember in 2016 when all the conservatives said, well, you know what? If we would have lost the election, you know what we would have done the next day? We would have went to work. Well, here you are 4 years later, still crying about the outcome of the election.
So if Biden's going to win by landslide, why are the Democrats not winning on the ballot?
It's up to the Supreme Court to decide.
Can I just say what my dream is? My dream is that Ed and Brian and Destiny have to actually live through a real coup, so that they can then come back to the set and be like, oh my God, you know what? I'm so sorry for saying that what happened in the Capitol for 3 hours against the most militarized and powerful government to ever exist in human history got anywhere near a coup or an insurrection. A coup or an insurrection.
Last place has been given out. Don't mind your
I will leave. Let me ask this one question to Glenn. I want you all to answer this. Humor me. I agree. Because Glenn is a really great writer. I really respect him and follow him for decades. Can everyone describe a coup to me? Because usually it's helicopters taking over media, killing the opposition, troops, and then you're claiming women with American flags and being waved in by police as a coup. So define to me, all of you first, and then Glenn and then the professor. What is a coup? Since this was the most devastating evil coup ever, explain to me.
Enact a scheme to try to circumvent the peaceful transfer of power,
like Russiagate.
No, they didn't take any action. They
tried to remove him on a line.
There's nothing illegal done there to try and remove
the intelligence agencies censoring, putting out fake dossiers. Oh, that was illegal?
The dossier was
saying his election wasn't legitimate.
Did they try to remove him? They took it to the Congress.
Wait, hold on. You admit then that Trump tried a coup, and you think Russiagate was also a coup? Then do you want to do
no, I don't agree Trump did a coup. I'm asking you. I'm asking you. Like, do you know about Pinochet? Do you know about Hitler? Do you know about the attempted coups? What is a coup? Hey,
Why don't you fight on the
you're the
merits
smart
of the
guy.
argument instead of doing the what about?
Stop.
You're not even
Destiny's
owning
not a
that
smart
Trump did
guy.
something
No,
wrong.
no, no.
Focus on Trump.
Define me a coup.
I just did. Did you not listen to
No,
it?
no, let's start with Glenn Greenwald. Glenn, you're a well-respected journalist. You look at
Used to
coups
be.
around the world. What do they usually look like?
I know. No, Destiny is now the incredible giant of journalism and the constitutional scholar I used to be, as Destiny said. But anyway, a coup is generally when people in power or people who are trying to get into power marshal the force of the armed factions of that country and use it to eliminate the legal process and take over. So, for example, if Trump had called in the military on his side on January 6th, or he had gotten the military to block people from trying to remove him from office on January 20th, that is always what we say is a coup. Nothing that looks like what happened on January 6th. The other thing I just want to correct, Destiny seems to have this like debate me sort of point that he thinks he keeps making that's so smart, which is when you
Why does he
say,
waste so much time on catty comments? There must be something better for him to
No,
say.
you're the one that does throwaway
There must be
lines.
something
All right,
better for him to say.
We're about to change gears. Let Glenn finish this thought, and then we're moving to our audience questions.
I've done this little debate tactic like 8 times. I've listened to it for 2 hours. So if you say this person did this and it's wrong, and then someone else says, well, what about this person, this politician you love? He did the same thing. Destiny says, oh, you're admitting that both of them did something wrong. No. One of the reasons why you say things like the Black Lives Matter protest was never considered an insurrection is not to say that January 6th was also an insurrection and therefore you should treat the Black Lives Matter one like an insurrection. The point is to say the Black Lives Matter wasn't treated like an insurrection because people like Ed and Destiny and Brian love the Black Lives Matter movement because it's unaligned with their ideology. These are liberals who hate the Trump movement politically and therefore want to criminalize it. But pointing to other examples,
I'm
where the
against
same
all rioting, just to be clear.
isn't admitting that the one that you start with is wrong. You're just trying to show that you're not applying consistent principles when your ideology is at
If
stake.
that was the case, then when you're accused of defending a coup, then you argue why it's not a coup. That's how the argument works. If somebody says, I think that Trump engaged in a coup,
One of the ways that you show that it's not a coup is by saying that the things that you like that are done that are far more insurrectionary are things you won't call an insurrection because
The bottom line is, if anybody with a working brain is willing to have a conversation, January 6th happened because they wanted it to happen.
Yeah, there were a lot of
Black Lives Matter riots happened
three-letter
because
agencies
they
there,
wanted
the FBI
it
or
to
CIA.
happen. If you put
Especially
enough
there were a lot of
people in
police there
place and enough
that were
security in place
in
to stop these
civilian
things from
clothing.
happening, they
Like I
will
said,
not
do not
happen.
trust the police.
Trump
They are not
offered
there to protect you.
local
They're not there to defend
support
you.
with
They're
the
there
National Guard
to do
to the
what
states
they're
that
told
were
to do.
being, the cities that are being burned down.
There
the
are
local
very little to no good
Democratic
cops left.
leadership refused that
They
help
get weeded out.
because they wanted it to happen. January 6th, Trump
They,
talked to Nancy Pelosi,
lawyers.
requested these things.
they
Used it. This was all a
like
setup.
the good cops, they get weeded out. They get tossed aside. Or there have been cases where they get killed by other cops. If let's say civil war does go down, the cops are going to side with the people that are already paying them off, the people that are already telling them what to do. And even on their sign, it doesn't says to protect the people now. It says to uphold the law. But they also get to make the law as it goes. Why do you think they're allowed to lie to you? Why do you think they're allowed to do this and that?
Some of the premium users of the website have sent in
Don't
some
trust
questions. This
them.
one's actually a
That's
question
all I
for
can
what
say.
they call the blue team, which right now is going to be the three of you guys, Ed, Brian,
And
David.
we know that there
The
were
question
cops, there
is,
were FBI or
the
CIA,
New York
whichever
Times acknowledged that there
of
were
the
FBI
Fed boys were
informants in the
there.
Capitol on January 6th. And then
We
they
know
give a
that they
link
were there
to the New York
undercover.
Times article.
You can see them.
Given the
And a lot of
agency's
them have
history
been
of
called out
entrapment,
with
is it a
like
stretch that
their
some
actual
agents may have provoked the riot?
ID and everything.
And
They've
then
been
there's a
shown that they were there,
follow-up
and they
Why
admitted that
was
there were a
law
lot of them
enforcement
there.
so ill prepared for the insurrection, in quotes, despite the presence of informants? So the first part of the question is it a stretch that some agents may have provoked the riot?
So informants are something the FBI has been using for years, decades. Is it illegal? No. They can do it as long as they do it within the legal means. If an informant is in the Capitol breaking the law, that doesn't mean that the FBI is behind it. Informants are also people who live their lives. Like, I could be an informant for FBI, I could go and murder somebody. That doesn't mean the FBI had me murder that person. So I think there's a lot of misinformation there that gets conflated with facts.
But
So would you say that Donald Trump could have supporters, but if one of his supporters wearing a MAGA hat did something, that doesn't mean Donald Trump is responsible? Would you use the same logic when it comes to Trump? Because you guys keep saying Trump is responsible because a person in a red MAGA hat did something, which you just disproved that entire argument with what you said. Fuck, I wish I was sitting there.
If I had to guess, I'd say Southern probably lost.
That dude
If Ray
in
had
the
set them up,
extra
why
tight
is a
shirt,
single
right?
other person there attesting?
Right there. This one.
Out of the
If
That
he
just
was
said that.
in people's ears, if he was leading
Not
preaching,
Jeremy,
and
but
any of
this
the arrests
dude.
went on a single- why did a single
That just said
person-
that.
I'm asking
Last name
why- I'm asking
ends with
this, though. That's
Stein.
a reasonable question. Why isn't a single person?
I could have guessed that.
Because he exposed him, because he's the leader there, and he's there doing it. He did it on video. He said, "I led this. I did this."
You're not answering my question. I'm saying, why hasn't anyone
he
else come
said,
out
I
and attested to
orchestrated
this?
it.
Not a single person.
You know what an orchestra is, right?
I went to school for music.
The conductor leads the symphony.
Yep.
So
And all the musicians have to see the conductor and would tell you that's
and
my
he
conductor.
says, "Go into the Capitol."
Why doesn't anybody
and
else
ram
say
signs into
that was
people.
my conductor?
You know, the follow-up part of this question: why do you guys think law enforcement was so ill-prepared for the insurrection? Again, in quotes, despite the presence of informants. This is from Space Worm, just so you know, Space Worm from Zero Hedge.
Well, half of them were sent away for crowd control.
I think the ill-preparedness came because Trump's deployment of the National Guard in the past, especially in D.C., had caused a lot of people to be uncomfortable with National Guard being present in the Capitol when the certification of was happening. So as they were having conversations prior to establishing security, I think they took a lot of extraordinary bureaucratic measures to make it so that I think that day, if the National Guard was going to be deployed, it either had to be, I think, Miller or Walker. I think one of those two had to be the direct authorization.
Let me respond briefly.
Which is not
We
Alex is thinking the same
We
thing
had
as me.
1 hour ago saying Trump never called for National Guard, and you just said they refused it. I got your ass.
Preach.
When the National Guard was deployed,
Preach, brother,
they know
preach.
that they were allowed
They
to do.
blocked it.
Yep.
The
Yes,
Pentagon
that's right.
blocked Trump.
Yes.
You just admitted
I
Trump
did.
wanted it, didn't get
Yep,
it.
you got me. They
got
only
your ass.
deployed 340
Because you
people,
looked at
and
the clip
they're
from an hour ago.
Yep,
He said it wasn't
that's
true.
right. You got me.
Got him.
That's right.
Got him. You
The
want to do
scope
these
of the mission. The
Donkey.
scope of the you know. Rhetoric like this is why Ashley Babbitt got shot. You realize that, right?
I'm gonna get shot?
No, people like Ashley Babbitt died because of people like you driving people onto this, right? It might be funny for you. I don't know if it's
I
funny for
murdered
them.
Ashley Babbitt?
Or you're more or less responsible with this kind of talk. Yes.
Oh my God,
Yes.
I'm murdering.
Yes. Play in a factual world.
You
At
love
least,
the
like, tie
opposite.
yourself
No,
to
Destiny's
that.
you said
mad
an
now.
hour ago- You said an hour ago
For
that
sure,
Trump
but
never
mad.
asked for National Guard.
Yeah,
I
like
can show
multiple
50
other guys
articles,
were
it's on
banging his
record.
wife,
And
but
you just admitted it.
this is what sets him off, apparently.
Guys.
Okay.
So here's the thing.
340 people were authorized to be there,
All you do
but
is
in order to
one-liners.
actually call them to it was an extraordinary process. When you read the J6 committee in the Situation Room and Sund and everybody else complaining, where's the National Guard? Where's the National Guard? There was a whole bunch of stupid bureaucratic red tape and optics concerns that people had to cut through to get them there.
So-
if you believe the official story and the 15 to 20 people
1
on
hour
testifying
ago,
under
he
oath,
said
but, you know.
Trump never won National Guard. Now Trump wanted it, but he didn't get it for a good reason.
Okay, so Alex, so you're claiming that this is staged.
Alex
You're
is
claiming
so
the
happy.
FBI was behind it. In 2019, you
Like the
specifically...
Gulf of Tonkin.
Huh? No. You specifically said, I almost had like a form of psychosis where I thought everything was staged. So do you still have that psychosis?
Well, I said almost a form.
So do you almost still have that
Well,
form
you
of
asked a
psychosis?
question. Let me quote it
Okay.
for you. That's out of a larger context about when you were
It
lied
was
to.
in a court deposition.
You're not. I said a larger context of deposition.
About Sandy Hook.
Which is a
That's what
larger-
because you
which
said
is a-
you said you called Sandy Hook's a hoax and you said it was fake because of this.
Sure. So you let me talk now.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I said a larger context, which is a larger 5 hours, 8 hour deposition, right? So I just told the truth. I said a larger context. I'm explaining that the public's been lied to so much. There's a major loss in confidence where people then don't believe anything they're told, and that's dangerous.
That's not what you said. That's not the context you said.
That's actually.
That's not the context you said.
I know what I said.
But I read it. I read the deposition.
Oh, so put the full thing out.
I don't have it with me, but I read it.
The point is, stop.
Somebody Google it.
You're scared to let me talk?
No, go ahead.
So
He's scared to let me talk.
That's a whole nother PR firm thing. Things out of context to blow that stuff up. All that.
PR firm is telling you what you say in court under
No,
oath.
you're not. You're
We
not.
got to
listening.
let Alex finish the short question, and then we're going to go back to the user's
ahead.
question.
I mean, Madeleine Albright told Leslie Stahl of 60 Minutes, I ordered 500,000 children killed because I thought it was a good thing to do. I'd do it again. She's a great person. I question Jussie Smollett. I question WMDs in Iraq. I question everything. and I'm proud of everything I've done, and all that stuff is PR firm garbage. When I talk about the general public, because the media lies about almost everything, loses trust in anything, that creates a general form of psychosis and is very dangerous. I talk about that every day on my show. And Joe Rogan just last week said, you know, Alex Jones isn't totally right, but he means to be right. He's more informative than CNN. They lie on purpose. And the public has lost trust in the system. That's dangerous. What do you do? So that was the full discussion. Let me give you another example. They say in court, Jones in a custody battle said, I'm an actor. Everything I say is fake. I've offered a $1 million reward for that. I didn't say that. They wanted to put, like now, a 15-year-old video. Back then, it was like a 9-year-old video of me as the Joker saying all these horrible things. Take drugs, kids, you'll die. It's great. So kids wouldn't take drugs. It's reverse psychology. Okay. And then, hold on. They wanted to introduce that in court. And my lawyer said when Jack Nicholson plays the Joker, he's not really the Joker. And when Alex Jones is in Waking Life or Scanner Darkly or any of this stuff, when he's being an actor, it's not what he really means. In the scope of when
Are you being an actor now?
No, see.
How do we know? How do we know?
No.
How do you know?
See,
Maybe you
So
saw psychosis.
disingenuous.
That's the game you're
So
playing.
disingenuous.
No, I'm not playing a game. I'm serious.
I am
Psychosis is a serious problem.
No, when I'm on this show, this is Alex Jones, the analyst, Alex Jones, the pundit.
Well,
Alex
I'll
Jones
get to you in a moment.
covering.
Yeah, Glenn's about to jump in.
I have talked to Alex Jones in private. Alex Jones is authentic as hell. It's 100% bullshit. I know the point he's trying to make. Alex Jones is legit.
What was it? 4 weeks ago or so? And you tried to claim that you didn't push the Sandy Hook conspiracy theory.
We're getting a field here.
I'm basing this on the.
Why are you
psychosis
bringing
thing.
this?
This is a field. This is not in the scope of the discussion.
Yeah, we really got to stick to this question.
Focus on the user's
Yeah,
question.
You lied in that space. You did push it. You did say that it was fake. You said you did. I have the quote right here. Let me read the quote. The whole
Yeah,
thing
okay. Ed, we're done. We're done. Glenn, I want to hear from Glenn. Glenn's about to speak.
Say this right now. Let me finish. I said in the context of everything I've done, I wasn't deplatformed for questioning a school shooting. They dredged that up afterwards, and I barely ever talked about it. It wasn't even on our radar.
But
So,
you said it was fake.
no, if I'm on the air
You said after examining it for a year, you found that it was fake. That's what.
All right, you know what? That's it. We're done with this fucking conversation. We're moving on to the user questions. As told, Glenn, you had something to say? Glenn, please.
I want to say that we are out of time here because it's been 3 hours, but I did just want to say I do think that attack on Alex is a bullshit attack.
That was a
We're
little
here
weird, funny.
because we want to talk about we want to talk about whether
We're
this is an
talking about
insurrection.
something.
And to try and make it about Alex when there are 6 people here presenting all kinds of evidence that you're not equipped to deal with, I think is just a pathetic way to try and end this debate. And the last thing I want to say is it's really given like a kind of amazingly vivid mindset into the minds of Trump-era liberals who have really come to see the U.S. security state and the courts and prosecutors as their political allies in their war that they're waging against people who disagree with them. And they have this like very romanticized view of what the FBI is, what the DOJ is, how the court systems work, how the federal government works. And all of this reveals this so well because what's happening here is so manifest, which is that all of these agencies are being abused because the Trump movement is considered the gravest threat to establishment power in this country, which is why the bipartisan establishment is against it. To try and make this about Alex and Sandy Hook is a really pathetic way to end the debate. I think you guys have done a good job defending your views. I think you should leave it at that. And we definitely have to go because it's been 3 hours. And
Well, we're not done. We're going to keep talking with some questions. No, not right
Can
now.
I answer the user's question?
Yeah, I would love to,
about
but
the
give me
lack
1
of
second.
preparation?
The only reason I scream is because I don't have a mute button for the people right now. I would prefer not to have to use my voice.
I think you did a great job, Ian.
Thank you.
And I really
I think
appreciate
Glenn
it.
needs to go. We'll stay. Glenn,
Oh, yeah,
give
Glenn,
us
if
give
you're
us a
about-
3-minute
Absolutely.
closing comment. All I'm trying to say is I didn't launch any wars. I didn't lie about WMDs. And to bring that in is
There was a point to it, though.
Yeah, like, you didn't let me get to my
His
point,
point
but I-
was just that if you were lying about that, or if you had psychosis about that, how do we know that That's not coming about. Half the show we talked about.
I did not say I had psychosis.
Half of the show we talked about feds, and you.
No, I talked to. If you look at the full clip of the transcript,
We talked about things.
I said there's a group. There's a larger lie when we're lied to and lose trust. Then out of that, when no one knows what's true, it creates a lot of problems.
So the reason I went back to that is because in that Twitter space, you said that you didn't push it. You said that you just regurgitated other people's information. And that's not true. Because you told
No, that's
me.
not true. I want to shut this down.
Okay.
I want to move to the next thing. It's not that I'm scared of this. I'm sick of it.
No,
I didn't make my bones on this. I barely ever talked about it.
wanted you to correct
They
that, but that
introduced
wasn't true.
22 minutes in these court cases over a decade. 22 minutes, dude. No, I didn't. That's not what I'm doing. You guys bring it up. And fine. Hey, Madeleine Albright said she killed 500,000 kids. She'd do it again. I killed no kids.
I just wanted.
Come on, guys. This is cheap as fuck.
All right, let's
Talk
go.
about what the people are paying. They
Let's
have
get
questions.
the
They
final
want to.
comment.
We have some
Nobody
legitimate
cares
people.
about
But Glenn
this.
says he wants to leave. I love
That's
Glenn
okay.
Greenwald.
But
No one's
Glenn's gone.
Glenn's
Glenn's
going
gone.
to be
So
forced
we're
to
here
hang
now.
out with.
all right, so those two brothers, by the way, those Crantonson brothers or whatever their names are, they are literally the definition of disingenuous. Everything they do is meant to just create fake outrage and controversy.
Yeah, they're like
it's
the
what they do on
Hassans.
Twitter. They don't
They're like the
believe in
Hassan
any of
of
the shit that they're saying.
that.
They're just there to get interactions and drive interactions, especially now because they're able to get paid off of Twitter. They were literally Trump reply guys is all they ever were when they were on Twitter before they got banned. They are bad faith to the definition of it. And if you saw the smirk in their faces when they finally got reeled in on that just now, they had a smirk because they got exactly what they wanted.
An extensive conversation.
And to be fair, why the fuck is anybody giving, like, don't give these fucking guys your platform. They have a big enough platform as it is. They're just there to troll you. I wouldn't let these guys on my channel. Fuck those pieces of shit. They can have their platform, they can talk, they can have their hundreds of thousands of followers, and they can talk to the crazy lunatic leftists that follow them all day long. But those pieces of shit, they are garbage. They have always been garbage.
Persecuted by the government. Why? Because when he was approached by JTTF agents in December of 2020 to recruit him as an informant, he recorded the exchange and the encounter and put it out there on the internet. The JTTF agent said, there's something going to happen in January. We want you to be an informant for us. We know that there are several influencers, including Milo, who Parlered, or whatever the tweet version is for Parler, put out a message on January 5th saying, I was just approached by federal agents. Whatever they have planned on the 6th is huge. Don't go there. That's just a number of examples. Oh, yeah. And there was Donnell Harvin. He was the head of the Homeland Security Office for the DC Fusion Center. His predictions were remarkably specific and accurate. His office came up with the idea that we need to have body bags. We need to focus on the Capitol at 1 o'clock. Specifically, we need to be concerned with explosive planted on side streets that could serve a diversionary effect, therefore allowing for an attack on the Capitol. These are just some of the highlights of examples of the government being in a position to know in advance what was going on. And it wasn't just that there was an ordinary level of security at the Capitol, which is inconceivable when you think of the fact that there was a major proceeding there, that Trump was there giving a speech. Ordinarily, there would be threat assessments, which there weren't. It's not just that there was ordinary level of security. There is a uniquely absent security on that day, uniquely poor security on a day with a major certification proceeding, on a day in which President Trump was there to give a...
Look, it's really simple, okay? It's really simple. These are not complicated things. And I wish somebody on this panel would bring this up, because if you're arguing, for the fact that J6 is a nonsensical situation that was a clear setup. Let's just take me, for example. Very small fry in the big scheme of things, okay? I have set up events for Geeks and Gamers. We've had hundreds of people show up to these events. I take security extremely important at our events, and I will spend an ungodly amount of money to make sure that people that come to our event that we are running and we are sponsoring know that they are safe. I pay for undercover security. I pay for
in all fairness,
upfront
most
security,
of his events take
and
place
I
in
pay
bars,
for
so.
off-duty police officers to be there to have their police cars parked out front to set a tone. And that is all to make sure that I am making everyone aware we're not going to play any fucking games here. Nobody is going to come play any fucking games. If you set a tone, then nothing is going to happen. And if something does, God forbid, happen, it will get neutralized very fucking quickly. This is why security is important. We have soldiers. We have retired police officers. We could be paying them the money that we're sending to Ukraine to guard each and every fucking school in the country right now. There's people out there that are qualified that could do it. And we can protect our fucking schools and all of these children. But the government doesn't want to fucking do that because they need their anti-gun narrative bullshit every time a tragedy happens. Fuck them.
Significant backlash to that within the judicial system. So even given how much it's rigged now, it's additionally rigged when it comes to those specific types of defenses because they're so subversive to the larger narrative that the government's trying to promote.
Why wouldn't McCarthy put any Republicans on the J6 committee then and investigate this?
Well, McCarthy isn't exactly someone who's aggressively interested in pursuing the truth on this either.
Okay, why not appoint like a special counsel?
And so my overall point there is that on January 6th, if they didn't want people going into the Capitol, they could have prevented this. If they wanted
there's video evidence that they opened the doors for them.
quickly, they could have made it go away quickly. Same with the BLM riots. That's it.
Going on.
So doesn't it suck then that like you can provide absolutely no smoking guns?
I provided a ton of evidence. No smoking guns. I provided overwhelming evidence.
You have not provided evidence for anything. You've given
You've
given a lot of stories, and now you've got an escape for every single way that you might actually discover what happened. Congress
I've been long a proponent.
McCarthy,
I've been long a proponent for an investigative committee, but not the sham J6 committee.
Well, they tried. They tried to.
No, the J6 committee is total sham.
Why is the J6 committee a sham?
Well, you really want to hear a good faith answer to that? Why it's partisan? Well, let's start with Benny Thompson. Now,
No, I know the people on it were all partisan. That's true. But that's because McCarthy wouldn't put forth his nominees after Pelosi said no to 2 of 5.
Well, first of all, I think those two should have been allowed.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking why didn't McCarthy put forth 2 other ones?
Because he didn't want to legitimize a process that was totally illegitimate.
So how convenient for you then that now we can also say the entire J6 committee?
No, it's not convenient. It's not convenient for me.
None of the
it's convenient for the regime.
No,
it's convenient for the regime not to have a legitimate and disinterested fact-finding commission to truly get to the bottom of the real questions that matter in relation to January 6th.
But there is no disinterested fact-finding. You guys say Comey was biased, even though he was a lifelong Republican. You say Raffensperger was biased, even though he was a lifelong Republican. You guys say that Barr was biased, even though he's been a lifelong Trump supporter and a Republican. You say Wray is biased. Like every single person you can. So then there are no unbiased fact-finders.
I didn't say there are none, but the specific names you mentioned, absolutely.
How about William Barr?
And
how about
So all these Trump appointees,
he made terrible appointments.
Ever do hire people, right?
Well, I didn't say it. That's not my contention here.
Who would be able to investigate this?
I think there are some people who could. I think Jim Jordan who could.
Jim Jordan would be your example of an unbiased party.
Jim Jordan was literally part of the investigation.
I would say for there to be a legitimate committee, it would have to include people who are genuinely interested in pursuing not only the questions that Benny Thompson and the hyper-partisan Democrats wanted to find out, but people who are sympathetic to the other side who would be willing to pursue the questions that I've raised and have been raised that were not addressed at all in the committee because all they were interested in was demonizing Trump and setting up a criminal proceeding for Trump. They weren't interested in getting to the bottom of the questions. Why was there uniquely poor security? What was going on with the level of federal infiltration?
These questions are all asked as part of It's an 847-page report. I invite you to read it at some point. The reality is that McCarthy at any point could have put 5 Republicans that he chose on that committee. But because Nancy Pelosi said no to 2 of them, think banks in Jordan that were actively being investigated or would have been the subjects of the J6 committee. He said no to anything, and now we get to say it was all a sham, even though the majority of the people interviewed were Republicans. Even though, as was stated earlier, every single person
banking
near
a lot
Trump.
on the Republican issue, but it shouldn't be a surprise to you. Many Republicans, institutional apparatus of the party, is not necessarily friendly to Trump. There are many Republicans that are hostile to Trump.
If every single person in government, if every Republican, if every Democrat, if every judge, if every person in the United States that is in Trump's peripheral ends up hating Trump or not wanting to work with Trump, at what point do you
we're not saying every.
At what point you are?
but
At what
Christopher
point,
Ray is not.
At what point do you just say?
I've been gone for 10 minutes.
Maybe
Let me
the problem.
respond.
No,
I'm
you're not. You
listening.
can't just run back in here and cut me off. Okay.
No, I've been
at what
listening.
point can we not
I am.
say maybe Trump was actually genuinely a horrible person?
No, if people that are historically, if career politicians and people in Washington don't like Trump, I consider that the best thing imaginable for
That
Trump.
should be the number one campaign issue.
Oh, wow, not inflation, not open borders, not human
definitely
smuggling.
Did a
not
president try to
all
circumvent the peaceful
politicians
transfer
in
for the
general.
first time in U.S. history?
This actually takes
So
me to the
they're all
next question. This
so
is going to be our
corrupt.
final
They're all
Trump's
so
not been
bought
convicted of anything.
for,
This is
for.
this is a question
Not yet.
from Fred C. And the question is, will Destiny address, quote, is white supremacy the biggest domestic threat faced by the United States? And I open it up to the panel after you give an answer there, Steve.
Domestic threat? I don't know how the FBI judges domestic threat. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a lot of crossover with like white supremacy groups and then being like organized like a domestic threat. But my guess would be domestic threats in the U.S. is probably fairly low to the total security of the U.S. So I don't really care that much about it. I don't know.
But that's the official policy is white supremacism is number one threat.
What is that? That's not a policy. That's a statement.
No, that's an executive order in June of 2021 put out by the
What are
White
the
House.
negative policy choices or what are the bad things that are happening because of that declaration?
They try to skew crime numbers. They say everything is that. I mean, this is like a major
They say
deal.
skew crime numbers say everything is that. What do you mean? You would not
Yeah.
count crime by black people anymore? Didn't
No.
we just get all of the
No,
hate
the
crimes
FBI
against
says the
Asian
number one
people?
crime is white people.
They say the number one crime is white people.
They do it statistically by manipulating the numbers, yeah.
I don't think the FBI is in charge of manipulating
The
numbers.
FBI is
to
not
make
involved in crime statistics?
I didn't say involved in crime statistics. I'm pretty sure you can go to the federal.
Okay, well,
there's a name for the site that has
Destiny,
like.
I
all
don't
the
believe
shootings
you're
and
like
everything.
hiding under a rock somewhere. You got to know he gave a speech for an hour yesterday saying
but
the
yours-
MAGA people are terrorists who are about to take over. I mean, you don't know.
There
You just said it's good that Biden is running on January 6th.
I think January 6 is a huge deal. Yes, the president trying to circumvent
God.
the peaceful transfer of power is a really
God.
big issue.
and that's why he can't be allowed to be voted for. We've
No,
got to take
that's
him off the
not why
ballot.
he can't. He's not allowed to be voted for because
He's
Section 3 of
claiming
the
you
14th
can't vote
Amendment
for
says
him.
that if you have been
Trump
a
is
prior oath
claiming they
taker
want to steal an
and you have
election,
been engaged in
so
rebellion
we've
or
gotta take
insurrection,
him
you're
off
not
the
allowed to
ballot.
run for office again.
We have to be clear about what's really happening. The standard Democrat voter, these people don't care about the so-called insurrection. That's
Yeah,
not
a lot of Democrat
Biden's
voters
audience. Biden's
even
audience
care about facts. They
is
don't care
to
about what
speak
actually is
in
going on.
support
They
of
don't
this
care that they have
phony
to
legal
pay.
theory
Well,
that's
they
being
don't have to
served
pay
as a
it
pretext to
because
remove him from the
most of the
ballot.
Democrats are-
And therefore, in the defense
Well,
of
that-
I agree. He's trying to rally the deep
Depend
state,
on other
saying
people
Trump's
for
going to
money.
persecute us and arrest
know what I mean.
us if we don't
Well, so
stop
it's
him
like-
because they've
like-
committed all these crimes.
Yes.
So I mean,
They'll
fact
continue
is the
voting
Supreme Court's
even
looking at
if
it.
the
They
gas
actually
goes
decide
back
to
up
take
to
the case. So
$6
it
per
doesn't matter
gallon.
what any of us
They'll
think. The
continue voting
Supreme Court's going to
Democrat,
rule on it.
vote blue no
And
matter
I
who,
think
and
whatever they
it's
decide is
just-
what we're going to live with.
Let me
So-
ask this: what happens if Trump gets reelected?
What do you mean? What happens?
Well, what do you think? They've still got criminal investigations, criminal
Oh,
trials.
so you mean if he gets reelected before being sentenced, if he is convicted?
Yeah.
I think he just takes over being president. He'll pardon himself or give the presidency.
And I don't. He didn't persecute his political opposition when he was in. I don't think he's going to try
I
to.
mean, he asked Barr to investigate Hillary. I mean,
quite the opposite. Trump's own bureaucracies were undermining him.
Well, he
it's
asked-
as
he
far
asked
as far
Barr-
from him using the bureaucracies to go after others. His own bureaucracies were circumventing his own president.
Well, that happened with Biden as well, wasn't it?
But everyone can see
Comey doing the investigation on Hillary's
establishments
emails.
after Trump.
No?
yeah, Hillary's email.
Yeah, Hillary's emails was under Biden,
what,
right?
What about the Hunter Biden
There's
investigation?
no acknowledgement there?
Hunter Biden investigation. That's Biden's DOJ.
Under Biden, he was charged. He was
Under
convicted
Biden.
on the grind.
And that's because the Democrats want him to step down for Newsom.
Oh my God! There's
So
a
they're-
reason why. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's always
So
a
now
reason.
the Democrats don't want Biden to step down. That's
Always a
That's
reason.
admitted.
There's an explanation
Who
for
are
everything.
the Democrats?
The debate continues.
No, the dominant Democratic Party wants Biden to step down. It's been all over the news. and then they're putting pressure on him to do it. You're saying that's made up?
He's not going to step down. That's not
How does he step down? Because you still need to have a primary.
No, you don't.
And it's
And
past
have you
the
noticed
deadline.
he's frozen out the other candidates in his primary?
The deadline has passed, so if he was to step down right now, Harris would likely be the nominee would be.
Well,
It's too late for Newsom.
I think
Like he'd miss out on several states. Go ahead.
we've really
answered that question.
we
Really
hammered
well.
that one right to the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is coming to a close. Zero
All
Hedge,
right.
thank you so much for putting this debate on, and everybody on the panel, Matt Darren Beatty, Alex Jones, Steve Bonnell,
Brian
Brian Krenzenstein, Ed Krenzenstein, Glenn Greenwald.
Tell us about your show, what you do.
Oh, I'm the co-host of Timcast IRL on YouTube, Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Tim Pool. It's a blast. We talk about technology, politics,
and
culture.
Darren, you?
Yep. My website is revolver.news. We broke a lot of these January 6th stories.
All right, so that's coming to a close, ladies and gentlemen. As the chat requested, I watched a lot of nonsense. We are going to let Alex Jones get his plug in because he's Alex fucking Jones and he's the man. Well, it's not playing. There we
And then
go.
I do 7 days a week, live on air, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. weekdays. Saturday, we do special reports every times. Sundays, 4 to 6 p.m. Infowars.com/show. Now, Real Alex Jones back on what was Twitter, now X. And we're here. We're fighting hard. We're promoting freedom. And we want everybody to tune in and see what we're doing.
Tell me about your day, Stephen. What do you do?
They don't care about Destiny. Okay. So we're gonna call it a day right there. All right. So again, that was really unexpected.
Yeah, just
I really
I'm
wasn't
gonna let him
expecting
finish. I'm gonna
that,
keep watching this
but, it was.
live
I don't
stream
know if
because
I
I
can
actually
call it
enjoy it.
fun.
I'm gonna do that while I
It
play
was,
some
interesting.
Ghostwire Tokyo
Again,
because
I don't typically.
I feel like I'm
if
close
it
to
wasn't
finishing
for
it.
Alex Jones, I would not have watched that. It's because
and then
Alex Jones
once
is
his cast is
genuinely
over, so that I can
one
actually
of the
pay
most
more attention
entertaining
to
human beings on the planet.
whatever I'm
And,
streaming today.
That's
tonight.
what made that worth watching. Alex Jones, that's it.
then
Everybody
I'll-
else is
I'll go from
mega
there.
cringe.
But yeah,
and,
just like I said, I enjoy
not
watching.
at all.
This is Cobra
Okay,
Cast.
this was supposed
His name's
to be a
Jeremy.
Super Chat square up, and it turned into something else.
Really
I
cool
got
guy.
another stream that I'm gonna
D-Day Cobra. Check
but
him out.
let's read through tonight's Super Chats.
Alright, I'm gonna mute it. Alright, you guys. So later on, I'm probably gonna do a gaming stream. I just haven't had a chance to set everything up. I finally got the stuff I need. I got some headsets. I got a headset, microphone, mouse. I just haven't had a chance to set it up. So I'm gonna, as soon as his live stream comes out, as he's done with it, I'm done watching it. I'm gonna set everything up and then I'll start playing some games. I'll probably play Fortnite. I don't know. But yeah, in the meantime, see y'all later. Oh yeah, also make sure to like and follow. And if you want to message me, give me your opinions on anything, talk about anything, go ahead and message me on Instagram. Alright.